Okay, we are up to Yitesem Beis towards the top. It's Kachi Kachim, 3 lines from the top.
Okay.
It says in the Mishnah Kachi Kachim that
Well,
Kachi Kachim the Umayis Cheni Chutz L'Chaima. You get Makkos for it. Give me 1 second. Right, for the Gemara is going on the Ma'aser Sheni part. It's eaten outside that's eaten outside the chaymo. You get Makkos on my base. The safer of Ma'aser Sheni tar v'gavatar. Our Mishnah is talking about a gavatar, a Ma'aser, someone who eats Ma'aser Sheni that's tar and eats it outside the wall. The other Mishnah that we're talking about, it's Machlekes in Zvachim. The Machlekes, the Gemara discusses eating truma that's tamei outside the wall of Yerushalayim. How do you know that you mechayev if you eat it b'tumah outside the wall? The Tanya how do you know that you get allowed for eating a tamei in Yerushalayim? I'm sorry, the Tanya the part of either ma'aser that you have to say when a person brings his ma'aser that I didn't whether it's tar or I'm tar tamei and or the inverse. If one of us is tamei, either the ma'aser or myself, then I'm being minded that I did not do it in that fashion. From where do I see that it's muzar alachila? So, because we only see or that's not that we don't see hazar over there. Over there it says that you should not touch. You shouldn't eat. I'm assuming it continues. So kachim includes ma'aser sheni. I'm sorry, ella tumas atzum. How do I know that somebody that's if I'm tamei? That's if the person's tamei. How do I know if the ma'aser sheni is tamei? How do you know that it's us? The chsev v'suchalecha b'shiracha v'alanu ayma b'shiracha toichlanu hatami v'atar. So v'tani debei b'shmal afilu tami v'tar archlan makar achas in chayshim. This is the second passage that the first passage talking about sucha v'shiracha, that's talking about ma'aser sheni. The v'shiracha toichlanu hatami v'atar is talking about a bachar that has a mum. Bachar has a mum after the shachta, the kohen can eat it even if it's tamei, even if he's tamei. And in that case, v'tani debei b'shmal, we learn now from hatami v'atar. Afilu tami v'tar archlan makar achas. We're not chayshish. And chayshish knows because we don't care. We don't care if the bachar becomes tamei. Again, this is only after it becomes a bal mum where it's ice hektish. The ka'abar rachmana heich tamei d'shari lagabi tar hasam hachal lo'isaychal. Wherever what it's talking about over there that it's mutter to eat, which is we just said from Rabbi Shmuel is both. Hachal lo'isaychal over here it's begeder lo'isaychal. So again, just like over there, it's tamei and tar is you're tamei and tar you're allowed to eat. Say whether the kohen's tamei, say whether the bachar is tamei. In all scenarios, it's mutter to eat. Over here, it says lo'isaychal. It's talking about an all I find them even tamei. It's usher to eat outside the wall. It's outside. I'm sorry. It's usher to eat. Say whether the item is tamei or say whether the person's tamei. How do I know that you could be paida even inside Yerushalayim, ma'aser sheni that's tamei? That you cannot carry it. Part of the when the Torah discusses the heter the heter to be paida ma'aser sheni, it says is you're outside the wall and you're not able to carry it inside. So it says se'esai. That's the lashon the pasuk uses. The ain se'es ela achila. Se'es means achila. How do I know shenema by Yosef Tzaddik and his brothers ma'aseis me'es pano, and it gave them portions. Right. So that's how we know that se'es means food. Amar Rabbi Amar Avasi minay the ma'aser sheni tar shepaydon isay afilu b'psia achas chutz l'chayma shenemar ilay suchal se'esai. That it's I'm not able to carry it in. In other words, as long as it's outside, I'm able to. It doesn't have to be I'm not physically able to carry it in. This we need. You can't teach me that it's psia achas outside. In other words, anything that's mechusar, anything that needs a seisai to get it to Yerushalayim, I'm allowed to be paid that. But that's how we learn from seisai, right? For the Gemara, this is what we just said from Rabbi Elazar that it's that you're allowed to be paid the. Hold on, what did Rabbi Elazar just say? No, they could be paid the. Oh, if you can't eat it, he's teaching this Asa to be you can't eat it. Why can't you eat it even inside the thumb? Because it's tummy, and even in that case, you're allowed to be paid it. So he uses that pasuk to be paid by Sasheni betuma afilu b'Yerushalayim because we said earlier that if regular by Sashenis, once it's inside Yerushalayim, you're not allowed to be paid it. If it's outside Yerushalayim, you could. Afilu p'siachas. And we're learning from here again. So having by the Rabbi Elazar in kain lemakra lo yisucha lachlei. Stay normal like every other place in the Torah. If you're talking about just eating, say lasucha lechle. My say. So why is it say a funny lashon of eating? It's mashma sai carrying and sai eating. Sai the halacha. Rabbi Bibi said that that if you're right outside the wall, you could still be paidet. If it's tar, I mean, again, if it's tummy, you could be paidet outside. The chiddush is that even the tar you could be paidet psiachas. But maybe if seisai means carrying, so maybe the whole thing is for carrying. So how do you know? How do you know that it's the whole how do you know to learn out both? No, but you said seisai is achila. So we're learning achila. And now you say seisai is really carrying. So you learn out carrying. Okay, but maybe it's just carrying. Use a different lashon, a more exclusive lashon to carrying or to taking. Because he uses a modern lashon for achila and a modern lashon for carrying, I learned out both halachas. What if the guy is standing inside, like in the gate of Yerushalayim? In other words, the inside the wall is it has halachas inside Yerushalayim. Outside the wall it has outside Yerushalayim. What happens if he's standing in the gate, in the doorway? What's halacha? Pshita, it's obvious even to the maksha. Hu b'chutz u'masa b'fnim called two mechitzas. So the question is over here: if once it's inside, right? That's a shayla. Once it's inside, I can't be paided anymore. So the question is: if I'm standing inside, if I'm standing at the wall, can I do my padiyah in the gate? So hu b'chutz u'masa b'fnim called mechitzas. If it's on the knapsack and I'm standing by the wall, facing outside the wall, so that my knapsack is inside the wall. Right, so of course, in that case, the wall is chaptet, and it has the halacha that I already saw inside Yerushalayim, and it cannot be paided. The question is, who b'fnim b'masah b'chutz? What's the halacha? So if the person's inside, but his bag didn't make it in yet, is that considered that he's inside, only him, or his bag, or by extension his bag is in? It says when it's far from you, it means mimulecha. It means all of you. In other words, unless all of you is far away, then it's not good. So as long as some of you is inside, then in other words, all of you is in all of you by extension, all of you is inside already. We learn from here that if you are inside, then the rest of you is inside also. So your knapsack would be included, and you would not be allowed in this case. If the person walks in, but his knapsack is still outside, then it is still considered that he's inside, and he cannot be paid this Ma'aseh Sheni anymore. Even if he goes back out, right? That's Rav Papa Nakit le Bekanya Mai. What happens if he has a very long stick? So it's very nice. In other words, by extension, it's me. If I wear a knapsack, okay, so like I'm inside or outside, like the knapsack is already inside. But if I have a 4-foot pole, like one of those, if I have schach, like a big piece of bamboo, right, and I tie a zekel at the other end, so I walk into the base of Mikdash, but this kana is standing daled amos away. Now it doesn't have daled amos, not dafka, right? The point is, if it's not on my body, it's not on my person, is that considered? How do you look at that? Is that considered in this drasha b'mulacha that it's all of you, it's encompassed, it's mamala, or not? So the Gemara teku. So when Papa asks a question, we don't know the answer. I'm going to ask you, from what point are you chayev? if you eat it without being paided outside the wall. So in other words, if it went inside and then you walked back out, yeah. If you walked into the Meiser, at what point is this Meiser Sheni have to be eaten in Yerushalayim? Do you get Malchus? It has to be eaten in Yerushalayim right away. But what point do you get Malchus? As soon as it goes into the wall. My timer, the Amar Kra, Lefnei Hashem Lekacha Toichlu, V'ksiv Loisucha Lacha B'Sherecha. Kol Heicha, the Karin Bei Lefnei Hashem Lekacha, Seichlanu Karin Bei Loisucha. These two psukim are right next to each other, and we say what we're talking about when I say Loisucha outside Yerushalayim, it means the stuff that was already allowed to be eaten inside Yerushalayim. Now, again, I think it's still also to eat, but I think the question over here is Makkos Daf. Okay, Tosis explains that it's talking about the mitzvah say you still mavatl even if it didn't go inside, but the lav, it's talking about the lav. Okay, so the Gemara Meis, fact the Gemara Meis, Amar Rav Yasi, Amar Kain shall also be yadu teina shal tevel. If a Kain has a date in it of tevel in his hand, Amar teina zu trumasa beukza. The end of it is going to be Truma, Ma'aser Rishon B'Tzfaina, Ma'aser Sheni L'Droima, and he assigns the different parts. He does not mafresh because he keeps it all intact, but he designates different parts of this date to be different matanas. Now, even a kohen that's allowed to eat truma, he's not allowed to eat tevel. So a kohen has to take if he owns a field or if he buys tevel on the black market, whatever it is, he has to still be mafresh truma, and then he can eat the rest of it, and he can eat the truma as well. He can even eat it together. But he cannot eat truma. He cannot eat tvua that was not tithed. Truma was not taken off it. Right. So and he does the same with Ma'aser Sheni on the appropriate years, on years 1, 2, 4, and 5. I think is Ma'aser Sheni. Ma'aser Ani is twice in 3 and 6. Or if he's Ma'aser in Gvulin, Achla Loika Achas, he gets one lav. What's the lav? That he didn't take off Meiser Trumas Meiser. So he did everything that he's supposed to do. So if he did in Yerushalayim, if he's in Yerushalayim where he's supposed to, when he's eating Ma'aser Sheni, Tuma you can eat whatever you want. I think. I don't think Tuma has to be in Yerushalayim. I'm not sure. I'm sure about that, but I'm pretty sure you don't have to eat Meiser. You don't have to eat Tuma anywhere specific. But he did not take off Trumas Meiser, which is the Meiser that the Levi, the Truma that the part of the that once the Levi gets his chelik of meiser, he has to give up a piece to the kain. So he's loika only one. The zar she'achal loika shtayim, but the zar that eats it gets 2 malchus because he's eating truma and he's eating trumas meiser l'chayr. The zar avachal meiser rishon. Right. Okay. The kain get the like achas. Because a zar is allowed to eat meiser also. Okay. But if the zar would have eaten it in the beginning, he would have only gotten 1 lav of tevel. Time of the East of Yerushalayim. So the Gemara is medayik over here. If the reason why he only gets one or 2 malchus according to the zar by the zar is because he's in Yerushalayim. So if he would have outside because he's eating Ma'aser Sheni Shlotz L'Chaima, he would have gotten 3 malchus. So we're talking about the zar only, right? The afagav the loy pnei chayma. It's mashma. It's not. It must have been that it didn't see the pnei chayma. We're going to see why the Gemara assumes that in a second. The afagav the lav roy pnei chayma. The I live after the Gemara. The I live afke. No, it means no. It went inside already. So it attacked pnei chayma. For the Gemara, yachi ma'ila ma'imra. So what's the chiddush of this brayso? And that's the reason why the Gemara assumes that there's a chiddush over here in Nemzan in a different way. If you're going to say that you walked into Yerushalayim with it already, then what's the chiddush? It went up in its tevel status. In other words, it went up as he didn't do anything to it. He didn't designate any matanas to it, and then it went up as tevel. and then it went back out, and then he was and now he did it. So the question is that considered that it was Roy Pnei Chaim or not? Because Matana Shalai Homu Kami Shahomu Damian, and it must be, and it means that if you bring Tavel into Yerushalayim, so it's like it was already taken off mice. It's like mice was already designated, and the mice that's in here is obvious and recognized, and the isurim of being paid afterwards applies. And the chiyuv to eat it afterwards without outside Yerushalayim applies already. The lav. This is in Rabbi Yossi, right? Rabbi Yossi is the one who said this. Remember, so it said this right. So how are we trying to explain that Rabbi Yossi is the one who said this? So there's machlekes b'sham b'selal. If someone brings in tuah and then walks out with it, what's the status of it? So Rabbi Yossi is going to explain machlekes from machlekes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. And from that explanation, we're going to understand. We're going to see how he must hold. The subject is that I think that Tanan. V'atani v'tanan Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Aimer Mishum Yossi lo yinachlu Beis Shammai uBeis Hillel al perish shelo nigmaru melachtan v'avu b'Yerushalayim sheyifta ma'aser sheni sheyipad ma'aser sheni shelen v'yachim l'chal. No one argues if the not like Beis Shammai, they don't argue in when it wasn't chayiv in truma b'chlal, chayiv in ma'aser b'chlal. So in other words, it wasn't finished to melachtan, whatever that means, whichever point of the status. Usually, I think it's when the piles of kernels are smoothed out. I think that's when it's chayiv in truma if you bring it in. But, right. So then if it went into Yerushalayim like that, then so if you bring it into Yerushalayim all smushed up and not done, not gemar and before gemar malacha, then it goes out of Yerushalayim. So again, you have this mush of a tuah. It's not gemar malachtam, and then it goes into Yerushalayim. And then it comes out of Yerushalayim. I could still be paid once I make once I take off the ma'aser sheni from it. I could be paid out because it's not considered that it went inside Yerushalayim. Again, just to remind it, if someone takes off ma'aser sheni in his house and he brings I don't know, we just got bumped off. Did you hear everything until now, or?
Just the last 2 minutes.
What, from where? Where did I lose you? The Again, Rabbi Yossi is saying that if the meiser was not in the state of, if the tvua was not in the state of gemar malacha and it wasn't chayiv meiser and goes into Yerushalayim and then goes back out, then you can be paid to whatever meisers you want. Then you can be paid to meiser sheni of them. Beis Shammai says once you bring in tavel, that once you bring in tvua, even that's completely tavel, but since it's chayiv and meiser, if it goes into Yerushalayim and goes back out, you cannot be paid to meiser sheni anymore inside. You can be paid, then you can eat whatever you want. If you're going to say that, like we just wanted to say, Rabbi Yossi says that if it's kamishar muharmudan hakaltas mechitzas, it's now he could say obviously like he holds like Beis Shammai, but no, we don't want to do that because we know we pass like Beis Hillel. So to say that Rabbi Yossi holds like Beis Shammai is a shikadoichik. He's saying like this. He holds the price that we're talking about is the Isser Achila. Isser Achila, we're going to be much more machmer because we're going to say no. In that case, he holds her. He holds tuasha. He holds what's the lashon? That it's like it's already taken off, and once I leave Yerushalayim, and then once he eats it outside Yerushalayim, he's chayev, right? Then he's going that's what the Raisa get in. So then he's going to say that the walls are kailah, but this halacha of not being able to be paida meiser sheni that was inside Yerushalayim, that's the Rabbanan. And only when it's there the end, but mamish when I have the tool in my hand, the ma'aser sheni when it's already mafish, then I'm going to be geyser that you can't take off, that you can't be paided. But the tivle like gazer abanim when it's in its hevel status and it's going to be taken off later, then I'm not geyser. Ravina Amar no going to nakale but kanya tifshay baya the Rav Papa. He wants to Neman this case is talking about the exact question that Rav Papa asked of that's in the Kana. So then in that case, he's still it's not inside, but we're still mechuyev him to eat it. But according to but it doesn't share Beis Hillel because again really he holds that it's not really. He holds that it's oh he holds maybe so it's dafka by achila that he holds like that and not. Oh, that case is not talking about it. That case that it went in, that it went inside. Again, how's he going to learn this? He's going to say that it's on a stick. No, so his halach is on a stick. So that's why. So he's saying the case of the machlekes is talking about it's on a stick. Oh, because he's inside. It's inside mamish. In the case of Beis Hillel, it's no longer inside anymore. But over here, he's mamish inside, and it's not talking about. It's not on this idea of. It's not saying that if it wasn't taken off yet, it's like it's taken off and you mechayiv anyway. No, that's like it's not true, and that's like Beis Hillel. That once if it comes in a tavel status and it goes back out, then it's fine. The problem is over here, he went in with the stick behind him, and now it's considered that it went in like to be placed the shot of a papa. That's the different ways of learning. Again, according to Ravina and Rabba. So in the Mishnah, we'll go a little bit further and we'll wrap this up. So this next Amud is relatively easier. If someone makes a bald spot in his head out of distress for a mace, and if somebody rounds his payas, it takes off his payas. If someone shaves his beard with a razor, we're going to see it's machlekes. Someone who makes one scratch in his body from a mace, he is chayiv. Again, also added English for the mace. If someone does one srita, having in mind 5 dead people, or he does because of one dead person, he has English and he's B'tzar, he does 5 sritas, either way, it's 5 lavim. Someone said, I don't know if it's Emes, but if someone does the srita and he has in mind the Holocaust, the Chari is over 6 million lavim. But I would assume, I'm not sure who said this, but I would assume that you have to like really know the people and it has to be on each one. I don't think that really stems. I should say it doesn't jive with the way I understand how this works. But anyway, just interesting ha'ara. So we're saying there's 2 different parts of the head that's a paya. You don't have to do both of them in order to be Iver, but each one is its own lab. One on one side of the head and one on the other side. The Gemara is going to explain where's the head. I mean, we already know where the pay is, but the Gemara is going to explain it. It's also huge machlekes for where exactly in the beard are the corners. If someone takes off all of them, I think he's referring to the beard, but the pay is also if he does it in one shaving, then it's one iser. The and only if he does it with a razor. Whereas I feel locket b'malket oy beriti beritni chayim. It's these 2 types of So it's not even hair cutting tools; it's wood tools that they are supposed to actually say. So even if he does it with like a madna, like no, it's not such a fine tool. He's still chai. Okay, the Gemara told me the pasuk says, I think it's just in general. Don't bold yourself. So if you do 5-6 bold spots, you only chayiv still one. The pasuk says, every bold spot is chayiv. I'm going to explain exactly how that works. But what's the chiddush that's on your head? Where else are you going to bold yourself? It says a different pasuk in Dvarim that you should not make a bold spot or you should not scratch yourself or make a bold spot on your head. Right? We put on tefillin also. It's not over here. It's over here. For a mace, let's say someone bolts himself or scratches himself on the back of the head. What do you do then? So it says in this pasuk Beresham, rabbis call it Reish. Mainly El Bakahanim. Now the pasuk in Vayikra that says Beresham says it's talking about Kahanim. So how do I maybe only Kahanim? Now why would I think only Kahanim? Why are they special? Shariba Behem Hakas Mitzvahs. They have a lot of mitzvahs extra that we don't have. They have Tumas and Harris. They have a lot of issues that the Kahanim have that we don't have. Yisrael Minayin. So we're going to make it. We make it Hekesh Nemar Kan Karcha v'Nemar La'alan Karcha. Ma La'alan Chayev al Karcha v'Chayev al Roish Kabin Anayim. Afkan Chayev al Karcha v'Chayev al Roish Kabin Anayim. Ve'Umal La'alan al Meis Afkan al Meis. The first pasuk by the Kahan doesn't say al Meis. It just says Stam. So the second pasuk says al Meis. So we see that we make a Hekesh and that the original lav is talking about Mesim, and just like the original is talking about all over the head. So too, the end is talking about all the head, and just like the end is talking about Yisraelim. So the Dvarim is talking about Yisraelim. So too, Vayikra applies to Yisraelim as well. So what's this case that you're going to get 5 lavim for 5 bold spots? If the Gemara is saying if the guy does 1 bold spot, then he gets hasra, and he gets another bold spot, does hasra, then what's the chiddush? Anyone who does 5 lavim with 5 asras, you get 5 malchus. Ella b'chad asra michem mechayev. But Ella b'chad asra, you think that he did 5 bold spots and 1 asra. So how's he mechayev? But Tanan naziv shahaya shaisa yain kol yain in chayev ella achas. Another who drinks wine the whole day, he got 1 asra in the morning, but he drinks wine the whole day, he only gets 1 set of malchus. Between every glazel, he gets another asra. So what are we talking about over here? How are we going to figure out how we get 5 malchus at the same time? The sach chamesh etzbais, he puts this the sach chamesh etzbais nasha. He puts this. I think in English it's near. It's like the hair removing cream. So he puts his 5 fingers in the hair removing cream. He lets it sit there. And he puts it on his head in 5 different places. He gets 1 asra, but it says you're about to do this with 5 different fingers. It's 5 lavim. And I don't know if he has to say that it's 5 lavim, but he's saying that you're not allowed to make a bold spot, and that asra is going on all 5 fingers. Like the Makkos Daf karcha. What's a shear of karcha? Rabhuna Amar shear mireisha. It has to be noticeable from the head. So if you pull out one here, if you take mamash like a toothpick and you put near and you put it on your head and it's a trop and no one sees it, you're not high. Gris. It has to be the size of a gris, a certain bean. Ketanai, it's machlekes kamashir karcha gris achem amar kagris achem amar kadesh yir merash. Amar Yehuda ben Chaviva by Chaviva pligi bat klasa tonight. It's a 3 machlekes. Not amar gris we said. Not amar kadesh yir merash we said. But amar kishtei saris. It has to be 2 hairs. Deked the mapik shtei saris umaya bakadasha. And some people switch out this shear of shtei saris and put in like a lenta, which is I think a larger size than a gris. The simanach, and to remember behar is gris u'michya kadasha. There's 2 types of teras, and there's 2 different shiurim. If you remember that, I guess you remember the hair loss also. Tana hanaita malay piyazog b'Shabbos chayiv. If someone takes off here on Shabbos, b'shayir, we're talking about chiyav chatzver. If he does the piyazog, the mouth of a scissor, he's chayiv. What does that mean? Rabbi Yehuda Shtayim, it's 2 hairs. Tanya, the karcha Shtayim, it says the Mishnah, the Brisa continues, and for balding it's 2, which is mashma for Shabbos it's not 2. And the aim of the chayin the karchat shaymans also the karchat is also 2. Tanya mahachi anoitim like piyazug b'Shabbos chayv v'kam b'loiz piyazug shtayim. So we learn talking like Rabbi Yehuda that piyazug for Shabbos is shtayim. Rabbi Lezer Aimer achas. Umaydim chacham Rabbi Lezer b'malakit levanis min mitach shchayres afilu achas shu chayv. Why? The whole idea is that it's not a davar chashiv, but one. Right here, if I took maybe if it's I don't know if that's noticeable or if it's a davar. No, you're doing a pa'ula. The idea of Shabbos has to be something that's a maisa. To write one letter is not a maisa Shabbos, but to write 2 letters is already a maisa because like the smallest writing. I guess that was in the Mishkan. There's 2 letters. To pull out 1 here, you didn't accomplish anything. 2 years is already like the shame that you got a haircut. You did something. The davar zeh b'chol asa. And Punk the Gemara says now again we're not talking about the same level of Isser. That's why we have to be. We're adding it in. We're not just because. Shabbos is a moisefis, so Shabbos is Isser Achatas. Misa if you get 1. That you should not dress like a woman literally, but you should also not act like a woman. And pulling out white here is when appearing younger is a vaibish azach. The pas reisha is the end of the head. What's the end of the head? If you make equal you smooth out from the back of your head, the back of your ear to the front of your forehead, and you make that with the same size, that's a problem. And you smooth it out from there. We learn from Chizda that inside the guy who gets the haircut, inside the barber is like it. It's like arm of the hand. Lucky someone who eats fruit from a sifter should get Makkos. In other words, he didn't do anything. The question is, we just learned for the last whatever on and off. We're talking about lav she'im b'maisa. You don't get Makkos. Even the lav she'im b'maisa you get Makkos from. So having your haircut is also. No, but obviously you have to tweak the lashon a little bit. And it says it means it's not talking about 2 different people, which is what it sounds like. It means 2 different lavim. The person who gives himself a haircut is going to get 2 lavim, 1 for having his hair cut off, and 1 for cutting off his hair because he's doing it. So it goes according to everybody. And he helps him. Either he moves his head or he moves the guy's hand. But either way, it's a similar idea. Exactly what Makkos between Rava and exactly the Makkos between Rava and Rashi, I'm not 100% sure. Okay, the next Gemara is talking about Amashkes pas Tana Rabbanan pas Zaknan is Zav Zakanav. So Zakana Shibayla Zakana, the corners of the beard. So again, the Makkos is showing them where exactly the corners are, but that's the one. Next Makkos is talking about scratching yourself for a mace. I did not want to finish before Shabbos about talking about Misa. Have a beautiful Shabbos, and Mitzvah Shem will have a Shir Matzah Shabbos.
Thank